tempting fate in a way. We just kind of wanted to see what was going to happen if we invited it upon ourselves. Maybe coax it on a little bit. We didn't know what to make of it. We didn't know how to explain it. We just knew that something was at work here. Some force was at work. We had already let something in. I think it was trying to keep us there. It all started when I was about 16 years old. Some friends and I would get together, and one of the things that eventually started coming up was the occult and what it was all about, even going so far as to going to the mall and buying a Ouija board and just testing it out to see if we could actually make contact. Inevitably, somebody started to push the Ouija board pointer around, and it all started out being very lighthearted and a bit silly, and we didn't know exactly what we were doing or what was supposed to happen, so we didn't take it too seriously. One time when we were working with the Ouija board, it did start moving around. Everybody sort of pinky swore to each other that we weren't manipulating the pointer, and so we started to delve a little bit deeper into it and understanding that, you know, there was perhaps something here that we should pay heed to, and strange things started to happen. You know, we'd hear noises, we'd hear voices, the windows would slam open and closed, and, you know, just sort of the very cliche things that you hear happen when you get into that kind of stuff started happening. We had all sort of just gotten ourselves sucked right into it. We just wanted to understand more. We just wanted to find out what there was to learn.
The teenage brain. Doctors tell us it's different from the brain of adults. But those of us who've lived through the teen years don't need experts to tell us that adolescents have a unique approach to life. We know those years are a time of constantly testing the limits of our relationships and of ourselves. Hello, I'm Lawrence Chow. Today on Ghostly Encounters, we meet Christopher Mio. As a teenager growing up in Windsor, Ontario, Christopher and his friends dare to tempt fate and test the limits of their everyday world. And when they do, they have a terrifying ghostly encounter.
Two teenagers went out looking for a place to park in their Jeep out at Texas Road. Texas Road is legendary for being haunted. There's something in the atmosphere about that place that's really unsettling. We had heard about this ghost Jeep. Apparently they got spooked, and the driver pinned the gas pedal and took off down the road, lost control of his car, flipped the car, sending the young woman into the river that this little bridge spans. After he recovered and looked around, he couldn't find her. She apparently had disappeared. So he got back into his Jeep and took off without her. He came back looking for his girlfriend, became distraught, committed suicide. And now the legend goes that the ghost of this guy returns to Texas Road in his Jeep, searching for his girlfriend and chasing away people that come looking for mystery and adventure. Reports had been coming back to Windsor about people being chased off the road and that there was a Jeep with one headlight. So, having heard this story, we took off to Texas Road. And there was a group of us in the car, just a bunch of rambunctious teenagers going on an adventure. It was really exciting, and we were singing along with the radio and telling stories. And then as we started to get closer to Texas Road, the the singing started to die down and the conversation died down, and then, the music was turned off. Just didn't seem appropriate to have the music. So, I mean, once the music goes off and the country road is going by you and it's pitch black and there's no street lights and the only thing that's guiding you is your headlights, and so the tension just builds. So once we're approaching Texas Road and Sean slows the car right down, slowly makes the turn onto Texas Road, and everybody's just with bated breath, just waiting for something to happen, something to break the tension. We got to Texas Road, and we took a drive down, and it's really spooky. It's pitch black, it's in the middle of the country. There's nothing going on. There's a cemetery about 100 meters down the way. We make the turn onto the road, and we're driving down the road, and we stop in front of the cemetery. It's all locked up, so we decide to jump over the fence. We hop the fence. Tension is mixed with the fear of not knowing what's going to happen next. Are we going to get caught? Is something going to come out and get us? Is there a farmer in the field across the way going to come and give us hell? We broke the tension by making a game out of being in the cemetery and running across and touching the fence on the opposite end. Sort of our way of breaking the tension, relieving the fear, and tempting fate at the same time. If we're going to see something, maybe we've got to coax it out a little bit. We'd all seen the Friday the 13th movies, what not to do, in the forest all alone. We took turns running to the end of the cemetery and back as fast as we could. We were just tempting fate in a way. We just kind of wanted to see what was going to happen if we invited it upon ourselves. Maybe coax it on a little bit. My friend Sean, who's a bit of a trickster, a bit of a joker, he likes to, play spooky stuff on us anyway. So it's around Halloween at the time that we went. He kind of disappeared, and the group that we were, it was a small group, so we knew that somebody was missing out of it when we all reconvened. Sure enough, Sean comes flying over all of our backs with this creepy mask on, and everybody kind of freaks out. And then after that was, we took some pictures. And then we hopped back over the fence and went to look for the bridge. Apparently this is where a lot of poltergeist kind of activity happens. It's right on this bridge. Very slowly driving, and we're walking behind. We're sort of sentinels for the car. It looks like a little Secret Service mission. We get to the bridge, and the story goes that if you turn off your car on the bridge and walk around it 3 times, that it'll die. You won't be able to start it back up. So we tried it. We did the Chinese fire drill around it. The expectation is killing you. because you don't know what's going to happen, if anything's going to happen. So that the tension just builds and builds and builds and builds. You know, turned the car back on, it started up, no problem. All of a sudden, I mean, it was really quiet. There was no noise whatsoever. There's no wind, there's no birds, there's no bugs, there's no anything out there. And we all distinctly heard the sound of gravel crunching under tires and a heavy engine in the distance. And we couldn't really pinpoint where this sound was coming from. Whether it was in front of us or behind us. It was just kind of the sound. It being close to Halloween and knowing that, you know, Texas Road gets a little more populated around Halloween, we decided that it could possibly be the police. So we decided to get out of there. Starting to get a little spooked out at this point. And that's when Dustin said, "Sean, you better step on it. There's somebody behind us." Turned the car back on, and we all distinctly heard the sound of gravel crunching under tires and a heavy engine in the distance, and we couldn't really pinpoint where this sound was coming from. Whether it was in front of us or behind us. It was just kind of the sound. We're starting to get a little spooked out at this point. And that's when Dustin said, "Sean, you better step on it. There's somebody behind us." Sean said, "Yeah, right, Dustin. What is it, a Jeep with one headlight?" You know, just kind of being very flippant about it. We all looked up and saw this one giant headlight, and it lit up the entire interior of the car. And it freaked. Everybody screamed. And Sean hit the gas really hard. We take off flying. We go over the bridge, and we swerve around this S-turn that's after the bridge, and we just about fishtailed the car out, put it up against a tree. Sure enough, it was right on top of us. This vehicle was right on top of us. It was one giant headlight. All of our hearts were racing. You know, all of our adrenaline was just pumping, going crazy. Because, you know, first of all, we were just chased by the ghost Jeep of Texas Road, and second of all, because when we made that turn on the S-bend, we had really fishtailed out, and we kind of swerved off the road a little bit, and we're really close to hitting some trees. I mean, after that, like almost having an accident kind of feeling, everybody's nerves were jumping. Everybody was just super tense and super excited. You know, we're all looking out the back, and we see this headlight flashing on the trees where the turn goes. As we're taking off, the headlight the light just fades away. And it's gone. So we got to the end of the road, and of course, we're all full of adrenaline and bravado, and we're very excited that something crazy's happening right now. And so, you know, Sean whipped the car around, and we peeled off back down Texas Road. We wanted to see, was it somebody playing a prank on us? But there wasn't a trace. There wasn't anything. There was no sign of a chase. There was no sign of any disturbance. There was no dust flying. There was no anything. It was just gone. It was just nothing. It was just as dark and as quiet and as spooky and as strange as it had been, you know, before all this had started. So we went back home. The first thing that we did, we went straight to the basement, lit the candles, and pulled out the Ouija board. We're kind of evoking the spirit, whatever it was that we had made contact with. We were sort of talking like we were speaking to whoever it was and asking it questions. And instead of answering questions, it just started pointing out letters. We went to M, and then to A, S, and K. And it kept doing this, M-A-S and K, M-A-S and K. We didn't really pick up on it straight away. Finally, somebody said, "Sean, where's your mask?" And that's when Sean realized that he had left it out at Texas Road. So we had decided it was way too late to go back out there tonight, and we had all had just a little bit too much of it anyway. We didn't know what to make of it. We didn't know how to explain it. We just knew that something was at work here. Some force was at work. We had already let something in. I think it was trying to keep us there. So it was decided that we'd go out the next day. The next morning, Sean picked me up. We were going to go out to the cemetery to pick up his mask. So we took the half-hour trip or so back out to Texas Road, and it's a completely different place by day. It's really quite pretty. I mean, there's a lot of forest. The tension isn't there. The spooky vibes aren't there. And we stop in front of the cemetery again, and the gate is wide open, and it's just a regular cemetery by day. So this time we went in by the gate. We were searching around for the mask that Sean had left. We came upon the mask, and there were shards of marble laying around on the ground. The tombstone that Sean had left the mask on was knocked over and broken. There was a really interesting thing about the tombstone, and that it was an unmarked grave. There was no name, no date. We really didn't know what to make of that. There was a bit of embellishment on the top in the shape of a cross, but the absence of the name was really the creepy thing about it. The first thing that we discussed was the possibility that any of us might have done this. I knew my friends very well, and I just knew that none of us would have desecrated a tombstone. I can imagine that there was some sort of ill will towards our activities. And I think that when the mask was left, that might have been the tipping point. And, you know, that the broken tombstone might be the physical manifestation of that anger of a spirit, you know, coming and touching the material world. Upon investigating and looking around, Sean grabbed his mask, but he also grabbed a little shard of the marble that was broken and lying on the ground. We thought it might be good to use it somehow to strengthen the bond, you know, strengthen the bond with the spirit world. When we got back to Susanna's house, we told them about the tombstone, and we told them where the mask was in relation to the tombstone and what we perceived had happened. To further prove our story, Sean showed Susanna the shard of marble that he had put in his pocket. She looked at it and remarked on it, "Wow, this is amazing, it's really interesting," and she handed it to her sister Beth. No sooner did she hold the rock in her hand than she threw it down and started crying. And we couldn't figure out why. We had made someone or something angry. We weren't being disrespectful, but we were being 16-year-old goofballs and running around the cemetery and taking pictures. Beth had some kind of an immediate connection to this little shard and to this entire thing that we had gone through. And she showed us on her finger that there was a burn where she was holding the shard, and it had burnt a little cross, sort of in the same shape as what was engraved on the tombstone. She warned us not to mess around with this anymore. She warned us, she said, "Please leave it alone. You got what you went for, leave it be." And furthermore, she wanted us to throw the shard of marble away. So we did. We respected the spirits enough to leave it alone. We never went back out to Texas Road. We pretty much stopped doing seances and Ouija board stuff after that. We'd just had enough.
Christopher would tell you it's never wise to provoke the dead. It's like poking a stick down a hole. Sometimes you get a garter snake, sometimes a rattler. Our experts see a deeper meaning to this story. Christopher and his friends' experience on Texas Road is not just a search for adventure. The teen's journey that night is a rite of passage. And like all rites of passage, it opens some doors and closes others. For Christopher and his friends, It opens the door to terrifying experiences of the paranormal and closes the door to childhood and innocence.
I think our curiosity and our determination to find something in the spirit world did bring it on. But we were good kids. Like we weren't out looking for trouble. We were just out looking for adventure. It seemed pretty real, no matter what the circumstances around the legend. You know, what happened at Texas Road is something that I'll never forget. It's just a feeling that has stuck with me my entire life.